Alright, good morning YouTube. It's been a while since I last posted to this channel, and at the end of this video, you're going to see exactly why that is. This has been a major adventure to say the least. See, I happen to have gone back to Saddleback College over the past year to pursue cybersecurity, and I now have this certification here to prove it. This is the Certified Penetration Testing Specialist, the CPTS from Hack the Box. Major undertaking, and I'm going to explain in this video what to expect, how to prepare. Yeah, let's get into this. So for starters, your choice of setup matters, and I happen to have a very powerful workstation here. This is an MSI Aegis R2 Core i9 24-core 32-thread RTX 4070, and on here I happen to have Garuda Linux with Black Arch packages. I basically did a sudo pacman tac s Black Arch on top of a Garuda installation, so this thing has all of the packages really necessary to do this out of the box. I made sure to go overkill on tooling for obvious reasons. Also, before you even attempt this exam, you're going to need to do all this. So there's 28 modules here. A lot of, you think Nmap is it? No way. The first one that I kind of struggled with is this one here, footprinting. It's actually more than footprinting, and you'll see why when you do it. You got a bunch of web recon, you got Nessus, OpenVAS, file transfers. You're going to need to know how to use Netcat and some other tools like Python to transfer files, set up rogue servers, reverse shells, bind shells, Metasploit, password attacks, learning how to crack passwords with Hashcat. Cracking hashes is also the main reason why I have this for an attack machine, because you really need to have a lot of hardware, especially for some hashes out there that may take hours to crack, especially protected archives. You're going to need a lot of hashing power, so something to note. Bunch of stuff with SMB and whatnot, and your other services, pivoting. Oh yeah, this is a big one here. So I used a tool called Legolo NG on the exam and in the roll path even. I would highly recommend it. I actually have a video from John Hammond in the description about that, so feel free to check that out if you haven't already. Active Directory here. Now this is key. This is, I want to say, a good % of what you're tested on is going to be this. So yeah, you really need to know a lot here. Same thing with web proxies, and you're going to need to know all this. Now that role path, the penetration tester job role path, that is the coursework. That's kind of like Hack the Box's Pen 200. That's what you go through before you can even attempt. So something to keep in mind. Once you finish all of those modules that I just showed you and you go to take the exam, you're going to realize, just as I did, that this exam is no joke. It is not multiple choice like Security Plus or like CEH. This is a lab that you've got to work through, and you may think, oh, okay, the OSCP is too, right? Not so fast. I happen to know personally a licensed OSCP proctor. She's the STEM success coach at Saddleback College, Maddie. She can tell you that there is no contest. If you had a case where every machine was compromisable with a single CVE, for example, if each machine, even if it was a different CVE that each machine was vulnerable to, sure, that would be more like the OSCP. But no, here you've got chains. Every flag is a chain of like 10 different exploits that you've got to combine to make any progress whatsoever. You've got to know how to dump credentials, SAM, LSAS. You're going to be using NetExec a lot. You're going to be using Impacket, Mimikatz, Rubius. It's a lot of work, I'll tell you. Another thing, too, that you got to be aware of is the report, which they have a lot of requirements there. From start to finish, you got to list all of the findings. You got to have remediation. You got to have step-by-step reproduction. You got to have a detailed walkthrough. Now, that's where most of it is. 180 pages is how much I had to do, mostly in the form of screenshots and also copied and pasted command line output. That's something that I haven't seen very much on YouTube about, so I'm mentioning that right now. Screenshots, you've got some, but mostly you're going to need to know how to copy and paste stuff out of the command line, is basically the gist of it. You do that, you're pretty much good to go as far as reporting is concerned. Also, and this is another thing that I may be the first one on YouTube to mention regarding the report, and that is you need to know how to redact things. You're definitely going to be redacting passwords that you've cracked. Another thing, too, you're also going to need to be redacting even the hashes themselves need to be redacted, or you put X's in them. Things like if you find, for example, an NTLM hash and you do pass the hash with it, you got to redact that, because this is basically, it's as though you're writing a report for a real penetration testing client in the real world. If that's got a password that someone can use, that's, kind of defeats the purpose of having a findings report. So you want to make sure that that information is kept secret between you and the client who you're testing for. So one of the first questions I get from people is this role path enough? And yeah, for the most part, I want to say like 90% of what's in the role path you're going to see in the exam. There are some quirks, which I'll get to later, but you're pretty much ready. I mean, the role path itself is hundreds of machines. So if you're pretty, you've got a lot of practice by the time you actually start. If you really, really want to do an extra module, though, to make sure you get extra practice, I would highly recommend this one here, API attacks. I definitely put the link to this one in the description, too, so if you need to, this really should be in the role path, and you'll see why when you actually go to take it. Another thing, too, you might want to consider is doing some actual boxes in the lab environment. IPSEC has a playlist about this, fantastic resource. I put the link to that in the description as well. So each exam voucher gives you 2 attempts. And the reason why is because it's pretty much impossible, really, for hardly anyone to pass on the first try the way the exam is designed. So you see these submissions are quite far apart. Typically, they take 3 to 4 weeks to get back to you. They took them 3 weeks to get back to me on the first failed attempt. I only got about halfway through the first time. Second time was a charm. You can see, got all the way through. And I didn't actually hear back on this passing attempt until February 25th. That's when the certification is dated. This is another copy I have. So yeah, there's a bit of a wait, but it's well worth it. Once you actually hear back and are certified, you get a bunch of stuff. I already showed off the printed certification, so I'm not going to, but I'm also wearing this t-shirt. This is another thing they give you. You also have a bunch of these stickers. You have a nice little pin here, which will be fun to wear to DEF CON later this summer. Hope to get sponsored by my school for that. Georgina, are you watching? So one of the major issues that a lot of people have right now is adoption. And it is improving slowly and mostly abroad, but it is improving. Taiwan recently, a couple weeks ago, I received word that they added both the CPTS and the CDSA, which is their defensive equivalent, to their official approved certification list. And they should know better, because Taipei has certainly been hit by a lot more Chinese APT attacks than Washington. That's for sure. So it's good to know that they kind of know what they're doing. Recently also, DoD, the Department of Defense, they kind of added it as like an entry level skill bridge option too. So it'll be fun to see how they go from there. And once more people in the U.S. government, I'm so glad that I'm connected with a professor, Dr. Barnett, is actually connected with the U.S. government, and I'm the one who actually introduced him to this. So it should be fun to see how that goes. Also, ironically, it was another professor from another local school, Brandon Brown of Coastline, who first piqued my CPTS interest, so this will be a fun conversation to have with him when I see him later this week. For those who are still concerned, however, there are a couple of things that they can do to definitely get the word out. So right now I'm on my Upwork profile, and it says right here, verified by Credly. So Hack the Box uses Credly to verify certifications, and so does Upwork. So if you happen to have an Upwork freelancer profile, having the CPTS on there is a game changer to say the least. So another option too for gaining experience is this. Now, BugCrowd is more well known and was originally a bug bounty platform. However, they also added this. So if I go to this tab here, they actually do have a penetration testing freelance portal as well. So people can, through BugCrowd, you can basically be independently contracted to perform penetration tests. And that's really how penetration testing works in the real world. So haven't gotten anything this way yet either, but this is also nice to have. The link to my profile on BugCrowd, by the way, is in the description, and also if you're in the same room as someone who's showing this video to you on a TV, I also put this QR code up on the screen linking to it. If you need any more proof as to how good the CPTS is, look no further than this. I'm open. When the semester ends in May, I plan to actually post more cybersecurity content on this channel. Some home labs, doing some boxes. Pat actually invited me onto his podcast too, so I hope to see you on his channel sometime in May or June as well to go over this stuff. And yeah, I can't wait. This should be a fun new chapter as we bring this channel into 2025.